So, how does it feel to not have autism?
I don't know, because I don't know how it feels to have autism, apparently.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I decided when I was in college to go get assessed. I think that's the right word. I don't think we say checked out. I think we say assessed for autism. And, clinical research psychologist sat down, did like full assessment, and told me that I am profoundly not autistic.
So you failed the autism test.
I absolutely failed the autism test. Yes. I was pretty, not totally convinced that I had it, but pretty suspicious that I probably was autistic. So his take was that I have, and this is going to make a lot of people who are autistic very angry, but this is not my words. These are his words. He said, I have a very, very strong theory of mind. And I don't basically have the social impairments that people with autism would have. And so I am just the opposite in all of those things. And so, upon reflection, I just accepted what he said because he was the expert. And then as I went on, I learned more and more about autism, and I was like, yeah, I think he's right.
Right.
But then I got into adulthood, and I started thinking more in therapy of like some of my stuff, and I was like, okay, this takes me back to all the stuff that made me think maybe I'm autistic. So let's just ask another PhD professional and see what they say now, 15 years later. Because a lot of things have changed and how people view autism, yada yada. And he also said, you are profoundly not autistic. So I've tried twice now to take the autism assessment and failed both times. So I think I'll stop getting that done at this point.
Yeah, I think that after twice, that's probably good, pretty good indicator. Not to mention the fact that you just don't have some of the typical criteria.
Yeah, no, in fact, I have the opposite of some of the criteria. So I don't struggle with eye contact. Doesn't bother me. I mean, I think it bothers me sometimes the same way it bothers other people who don't have autism. So, like, if someone's got a predatory stare, across a room or something. I've had bosses do that before when they're trying to get me to shut up. That can make me a little uneasy or whatever. But no, I don't struggle with eye contact. I can have a very intense sensation of connection with someone with eye contact, but it's not all the time. It's very, limited circumstances. I'm not unaware of what's going on around me even when I'm zoned out. So, like, even when I'm super hyper-focused on something, one of my special interests or whatever, if you call my name, I hear you. If a feather falls out of a pillow and hits the floor, I notice. If there's a weird creak in the house, or the air conditioner turns on and the door goes chook against its door jamb, I notice. So, like, I don't have that thing where I'm just totally zoned out and can't really be rousted out of that, or not easily.
And that is something that I actually can experience occasionally, quite frequently, in fact. And you don't believe me. Like, you don't believe me about the experience. Well, you didn't. Like, it took a very, very long time to convince you that I can think about nothing. Or perhaps the definition of, like, thinking about nothing was not quite accurate, or you didn't quite understand what I meant by saying that I'm not thinking about anything.
No, wait, I'm confused. This is talking about, like, if you're engrossed in something, like, let's say you're playing a video game, and I'm like, hey, Mark, and you wouldn't hear me.
Oh.
Because you're so engrossed in the video game.
Okay, yeah, I do that too. I wonder if it's the same thing or something similar.
I don't know.
I wonder if you just get very focused on, like, a thing.
And just tune everything else out.
Tune everything else out. I wonder if anybody else that has experienced this, let us know your experience, because that could be actually very helpful for us to understand a little better.
Yeah, maybe they're related. Yeah, I mean, I still maintain my position on the other topic, but I know what you'd say to that. I'm free to be wrong. And then I'll say, I don't think I'm wrong, and then we're done with this whole thing. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, I'm not unaware of what's going on around me, even when I'm zoned out. Like I actually can't. I don't think zone out like that. I don't think it's possible. Losing track of time. I don't have the ability to lose track of time.
No.
I am just the opposite. In fact, many times, if you ask me what time it is, even though I've not looked at a clock or a phone or a watch or a laptop for the last 6 hours, or even all day, I might be able to tell you what time it is.
Without looking, what time is it?
I already know what time it is because I've been looking at I looked at my screen.
Oh. Shoot. We were gonna do a party trick.
They wouldn't know that I wasn't cheating anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, I'll come within what?
Usually within a 4-minute margin of error.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So I don't have this losing track of time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I've been hyper-focused on something, I still know basically how long I've been doing that once I sort of come out of hyper-focus. Difficulty understanding and interpreting tone, body language, eye contact, etc. No, I am the exact opposite. So like I notice every micro expression, every tilt of the head, every intonation change, and typically know what that means. And I know that it's been helpful to you at times for me to be able to look at you and go, what's going on? You're emoting X. And sometimes you'll argue with me and be like, I'm not emoting X. You know, I'm emoting this. And then it takes you a little while and you think about it and you're like, dang, I am emoting X.
Right. Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it does happen where it's like, no, really, it's
I
fine.
can be wrong. I'm not infallible.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, don't have that. Preference for alone time. No.
Do you ever need alone time?
Never. I never actually need to be alone.
That's
and by alone, I mean like not in another person's company.
Right.
Because for me, it actually feels quasi alone to be in the same room with someone if we're not directly interacting.
That's interesting. You know what? I think that, well, this is an introvert versus extrovert issue, because I'm also quasi alone with someone in the room and doing the same, or just doing their own thing, because like as an introvert, when I'm with someone in the same room, I feel a pressure to engage with them so that I'm not
fully relaxed,
being rude or weird or something like that. I mean, sometimes I just have natural interaction with anyone in the room. You know, we spend time together and we love spending time together. But like if I needed alone time, like being alone in a room with someone is that same sort of quasi state where I feel a little pressure to engage.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
But I think that it's a similar thing for you. You need extroversion. You need to be able to engage with people, and to like, I mean, it's not quite scratching the same itch to be in a room with someone else and not engaging with them, right? So you don't have to feel awe about that because it's the same thing for you.
No, thanks, Bill. So yeah, I do not have preference for a long time, like ever. Everything is better being experienced with at least one other person. And I love being in a house full of people. Like my nervous system just delights in that. Difficulty knowing what emotion another person is feeling. I don't tend to struggle with that.
No.
I mean, I get it wrong, like people get it wrong, but I'm pretty good.
Yeah. The thing that you might have trouble with is it's funny because you can pick up on what people are feeling, but sometimes you have difficulty expressing how you're feeling.
Yes, that is one thing I have in common with a lot of folks with autism, is I have very hard time putting words to my emotions. And I think part of it is that I feel like I have very complicated emotions. Or very extreme emotions, very big emotions, and it's hard to put those into words. And I don't really express them other ways either. So it's just like something that's happening inside that nobody would know. Yeah. A driving need to complete one task before moving on to another one. This would be an absolute no.
Yes.
I like to have 8, 9, 10 tasks in mid-process. Yeah, I don't. There's not an end to that queue. I don't feel any stress to complete something before I go on to the next one.
Really, you don't have projects that just seeing a particular project not being done doesn't give you any kind of distress or anything like that?
I mean, sometimes it does. Like when I was really, really sick, I would look at projects and I would think, I hope I don't die before I get to finish that. I don't think that's the same thing that's driving this and other people. Or I would think, oh, I should. It's the right thing to do to finish that. It'll be a waste if I don't. Like, I have self-shaming thoughts. But there's nothing inherent coming from inside me. It feels like an external pressures usually.
That's another way. I mean, that is another thing that we just have that I just very different for us. I like to have some projects, like multiple projects to work on. I also tend to have that activation energy issue to actually get a project completed. The difference is whenever I see a project that's not completed, I often will I have an anxiety that I'm like, I don't want to do anything else until something else is done.
Yes.
I need something off of my checklist to be able to put something else in the queue.
And for me, if I get that way, it's because I actually want the outcome so bad. And I want the outcome right now. It's not about completing the task for me. It's like, I need this thing to be done so that my life is better or your life is better or whatever. Or so we can go have fun, or whatever. Yeah. So it's not really about task completion. Struggles with figurative language. I don't normally have struggles with figurative language, although I do have a hard time interpreting your puns sometimes.
Can you explain figurative language?
Because
that's not a term I'm familiar with.
I think it's like analogies and metaphors.
Okay.
Now you're making me wonder if I know the definition.
Sorry.
A way of using words or phrases to convey meaning that's different from their literal meaning. Yeah.
Okay.
So, happy as a clam.
Right.
Well, what does that mean, literally? That's a very difficult thing to parse.
Yeah, you would need to have some contextual understanding of, thinking that a clam looks like it's smiling, I guess. I'm not really even sure.
Right. So, it's that kind of stuff, I think. Correct us if we're wrong, English teachers. Difficulty with abstract thinking. I am the queen of abstract thinking, and I actually probably struggle more with concrete thinking. So I'm the total opposite on that. Difficulty with social cues. I don't usually struggle to recognize social cues. My problem is struggling to understand why people need to approach so many things indirectly or are mean. I get baffled by the social cue that I'm seeing. That indirect crap that I hate. Just people are like, well, it's been a good night. What they really mean is, let's all leave now.
Yeah. Can you touch back on etiquette and how this ties into etiquette? Because it seems like those two things, what you're saying is, it seems incongruous with your feelings on etiquette.
I don't know, really. I haven't really explored that. A lot of etiquette, though, comes from a logical place. So, where I grew up is very southern U.S., and I'm of a certain age. So, there was definitely a cultural notion that men should generally look out for women's best interests.
Sure.
Especially from a physical perspective. And so men walk on the street side of the sidewalk and women walk on the inside. There's this sort of chivalry kind of mentality of if someone's going to get their pant leg drenched in puddle water, it's going to be me and not your dress or whatever, So there's, in my mind, there's a logical root to that. And it's not manipulation.
Okay.
So, if someone says, I'll think about that, but what they really mean is no, they're manipulating.
Yes, absolutely.
But if someone's like, well, I'm going to walk on this side of the sidewalk, how are they manipulating? You know? I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I'm not sure. But anyway, I want to go on with the list.
Okay. I was just curious.
No, that's a good thing to think about. Difficulty understanding humor.
Oh, yeah. You oftentimes do not understand my humor.
Hey, wait a minute. These are things I don't have.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hilarious.
I think that's more to do with my humor than it does your sense of...
But like if we're watching a funny movie or someone says something funny, I'll understand what's funny.
Yes.
Okay, you're undermining me here.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, you'll understand and be like, I understand why people think that's funny. I don't think it's funny.
That's kind of between us, yes. We have very different senses of humor sometimes.
Yes, that's true.
Difficulty with imaginative play no, I don't have any problems with that.
No, you do not have any issue with that.
Difficulty recognizing one's own emotions. I don't. I have a problem expressing to someone else what that is.
Yes. Like, you can tell me when you are upset or when you're happy or anything else.
Right.
But actually expressing it physically is where you have more difficulty. Which, I mean, I can see that being very frustrating for you.
Yeah, my face doesn't show it. My tone doesn't show it. My body doesn't show it. And if it does show it, it's not usually to the degree that I'm feeling it.
Right.
It's very muted. And I had to work with someone to get that to work. But trauma history. So, yeah. So I know how I'm feeling. But then sometimes I don't know what the word is for that feeling.
Right.
Still. Or I'll be having multiple feelings, and that's where it gets really confusing. So
yeah, so you mean I can have more than one feeling at a time?
No, say it's not true. Okay, preference for text or email communication. That's a hard no for me. I hate reading and writing.
Yeah, and I think that you prefer phone calls, right?
I prefer in person.
Right. Well, I mean, if you yes, I understand. That's one thing that's kind of interesting between us is you prefer in-person communication. I also prefer in-person communication, but whereas if you couldn't get in person, then you enjoy a phone call.
Or video.
Or video call.
Yep, and then phone call.
But I'm just like, nope, skip to text me.
Yes. Or messaging.
Or messaging, unless we're going to do some kind of activity like play a game online or something such as that. Then, a voice for me, that is a way that I feel comfortable engaging. So that's interesting that you're a very clear gradient. You want to be as close to in person with someone that you can be.
Yes. Well, I'm very tactile, so
yeah,
and visual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Difficulty with multi-step instructions. I don't have any problem with that.
No.
Good thing my line of work doesn't really permit that. So long as I can put what someone's saying into pictures or video in my head, they could give me 15 instructions, and that's fine. Inability to self-monitor. I don't have problems with that. I monitor myself to the nth degree.
What does that mean?
Like, well, one thing that I've heard from autistic creators is that they have a hard time recognizing how loud they're being. Like when they're having a conversation, they might get really excited about something, and then their volume just goes up, 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 and the person they're talking to doesn't understand why they're that loud.
Yes.
If I'm loud, I know I'm loud.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about how loud I am while I'm being loud. Yeah. So I monitor myself. And then I monitor my feelings and my thoughts inside, too. So very introspective. Part of why I'm still here, based on my family history. I also have the ability to think about how other people view me from the other side. And so I can hide emotions very well and stuff like that. Forgetting to shower? Nope. No? I love baths. I love washing. I love bathing. I love swimming. I love being in the ocean. And I even had a waterbed growing up. So I love being in the water. Not going to forget to shower.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I guess in my history I made showering such a part of my routine that I guess it makes sense that I wouldn't forget. It's one of those situations that it's difficult for me to imagine forgetting to take a shower before you go to bed or something like that. That's a fascinating conundrum, but it falls into the same line as they sometimes forget to eat, right?
I guess it's similar.
Yeah.
And it may also be like, it may just be a rational thing, like, hey, I didn't leave my house today, how dirty could I be?
Right.
It might be that.
Yeah. Anyone that, again, if anyone has had this kind of experience, has some input on that, I would be fascinated to understand what the thought is there, or if it is not even noticed. So we would appreciate a comment on that.
Yeah. Or maybe it's too triggering for some people, the sounds and the water hitting the body, and you know, because sensory stuff can be the volume levels on the different senses can be too high or too low in any combination. So
yeah, I could definitely see some situations where they would prefer a bath, for example, over a shower,
or vice versa, or nothing at all. Maybe it's difficult for some people. Okay, let's see. Last one, I think. Issues with sarcasm.
You don't have any issues with sarcasm.
But yeah, no, I tend toward the sarcastic.
Yes.
And I appreciate sarcasm. And I actually was in a counseling session one time with a guy who was like, can we just turn down the sarcasm a little bit today? And I wanted so bad to say something super sarcastic back to him, but I could tell by the expression on his face that was not the time to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, I love sarcasm. Don't have any problems with sarcasm, and yeah, I like it. Yep. So, anyway, I am profoundly not autistic, and I think a lot of it has to do with the social stuff. So, kind of the big heavy-hitting diagnostic criteria about social parts and interactions with other people and communication and emotional communication and recognition and all those kind of things. Like, I don't, pretty typical in a lot of those, and maybe even extreme. More of that than the average person in some areas. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that are, like, classically, typically known autistic traits that things like that you just do not have. You do not. There are some sensory things that you do, like too much light, too much sound, but you love music. You love the sounds of nature. There's a lot of things that you do enjoy for like sensory experiences. So, yeah, I think that was. Well,
and I think lots of people with autism have a lot of sensory experiences they love too.
Right.
And I mean, I do STEM.
That's true.
And they do too, you know. So, I think it's more of the social thing.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think I have a lot of the sensory stuff in common. And I think that's what drove me to think I had autism, was the sensory stuff at its core. So, anyway, that's some examples of how I don't fit.
So that's how
I don't fit in with anyone.
Oh, now I understand how it feels to not have autism.
Hilarious. Okay. All right. Well, until next time.
Adios.